so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local residents and local businesses on why they love being in Flagler County. And today, my guest does something very similar to that as well. Vanessa Cole with Coffee News. Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing a few minutes of your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Macy. It's very honored to be asked. So thank
Oh,
you.
of course. Yeah. I know you're just so well loved and connected in the community. I feel like every time I go to an event, your name pops up in the greatest fashion ever. Like, oh yeah, you need to talk to Vanessa. Vanessa helps me with this. Vanessa does this for me. So I know it's like if I'm talking to anyone about Flagler County, I have to talk about Vanessa. Of course.
Thank you.
Well, to kind of start it off, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story about being here in Flagler, coming down to Flagler, and all that great stuff?
Sure. So my love for the beach started when I was very young. And so my goal has been for years and years and years to live at the beach. So we owned a publication. It's actually a worldwide franchise called Coffee News up in the North Georgia, Chattanooga, Tennessee area. We owned and operated that for 12 years. Well, the gentleman who owned the St. Augustine Palm Coast area decided to retire, and he knew my love for the beach. So, probably close to 5 years ago now, he said, "Hey, I'm going to be retiring in 12 to 18 months. Do you want to buy Coffee News?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Yes. So, fast forward to July, end of July of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Um, we actually purchased Ron's existing franchise, and he had three papers.
Mhm.
He had two editions up in St. Augustine and then one here in Palm Coast. So I had been through Palm Coast, literally down A1A from St. Augustine to Daytona, but had never stopped and like spent the night or looked around. I'd actually stopped at one little restaurant on the way, and that was it. But when Ron was giving us like an overview of all the areas that we own, we literally come to Palm Coast, and looked at my husband. I said, "This is where I want to live. This is smaller area. I love Flagler Beach. It just is like that's me. I'm not a big touristy person, so St. Augustine was, more
Mm.
touristy. And I mean, I work up there a couple of days a week, so it's not that I don't love there, but I love living here. And I only live 4 miles to the beach, so I've never ever lived that close to it before in my life. So it's great. I can literally hop up in the mornings and go walk on the beach. I love that.
Hmm.
So
That's great. I know the beaches, I feel like that's the most common answer I get when I ask this question. It's like it's typically the beach. And I think, like you said, Flagler is kind of that perfect beach for those who don't want to be where it's super busy in Daytona or super touristy like it is in St. Augustine. It's quiet. It's kept to ourselves. It's our little secret. You go there, there's a few people on the beach. It's not a huge lot. You're not alone,
absolutely.
but it's
Mhm.
not like where am I gonna park today? How much am I gonna pay for parking? Where am I gonna go? Are there gonna be space for me? You never think about that when you
None
go
of
to
that.
Flagler.
None of
No.
that.
And if you do want to go to the busy beaches, I mean, Daytona's 20, 30 minutes. Super easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I work in Daytona too, a couple of days at Daytona, Port
Mm-hmm.
Orange area because of our publication. So
Okay.
you're right, we're real close. And that was another thing about Palm Coast was the little traffic. And I
Mm.
hear people say, "Oh, Palm Coast is busy." I'm like, "You've never drove in Chattanooga, Tennessee or
Oh
Atlanta, Georgia, have you?"
no.
I was like, "That's totally different." So when I said, from the interstate to my house or like say to European Village is
Mm-hmm.
less than like 7 minutes. I'm like,
Yes.
that's what, I don't know, what, 3 or 4 miles, 5 miles maybe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm used to being in traffic and setting 30 minutes going 2 miles, so this is very minor traffic. So,
Yes. I mean, I wasn't from a super big town, but where I was in Michigan, all of the surrounding areas, there are some like roads that I know that you're like, you do not go 9 a.m., you do not go 5 p.m. Those are the two, like you just do not go
yeah,
down that road because it's a lot. We're pretty grateful. We should be grateful at all times of year.
absolutely. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd love you to talk about Coffee News because you said you bought the franchise, kind of fresh into COVID. How was that for you? And how is it going now?
So sure. So, obviously I'd already been a publisher for 12 and a half years when I bought. So it wasn't like a brand new business
Mm-hmm.
or anything. I was very familiar with how to run a coffee news franchise. So when we bought, we had 3 papers.
Hmm.
So, people flourished in COVID, but then also there's many businesses who went out of business. Well, the thing with Coffee News is because we do offer print advertising and it is affordable. So
Mm.
people were like, hey, I've got to cut back on our marketing and our budget. But, they were like, oh, I could still do an ad in Coffee News. So literally from July of 2020, fast forward 18 months, my husband and I, who owned the business, we went from 3 papers to 10 papers
Wow.
in less than 18 months, like 17 and a half months.
Yeah,
So when people were like, oh, COVID's bad, I'm like, we're business is great, so it's one of those things you've just got to get in there. And it was a challenge because of people wouldn't let you in their door, but then, I would follow up with emails and stuff like that. So totally different. The way I run my business before COVID versus the way I run my business now is I'm a big face-to-face person.
hmm,
And it was challenging, but I'm just like, this is not gonna. I moved to the beach. This is gonna succeed. So and Coffee News has been here in Palm Coast now for over 19 years, and up in St. Augustine for over 20 years. So obviously Volusia County is the new areas that we added, but I mean, yeah, we're going on 2.5 years in down there, and they're really thriving.
that's awesome.
So
That's so great.
yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what Coffee News is, what would you say that they can find in the Coffee News paper? And what if businesses are maybe looking to advertise, like you said, it's super affordable for them. What should they know about advertising? Like, what is the first, like, okay, this is what my message should kind of be like, or anything like that? Any tips you have?
Sure. Well, I will hold this up just in case somebody hasn't seen Coffee News. It's just a little 11 by 17 brown piece of paper. With Coffee News, all of our stories are fun tidbits of fun stuff. So you're not going to find anything negative, no politics, no taxes, no death, nothing negative. It's all fun tidbits of stories. And also because it is still a print publication, we have a big senior readership. Well, Macy, obviously, we have a big senior population here in Palm Coast, St. Augustine, all in this Northeast Florida area. So that's one of the things is people still love to read. Yes, they're on their phones all the time, but specifically our senior community still love to have something to read.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that sets us apart, or like you said, that's unique about us, is we do offer exclusive advertising. So for example, I have one realtor, I have, one CPA, one criminal defense attorney, one personal injury attorney. So that right there helps in itself, specifically if their competitor is a really big advertiser and is coming right behind them or right beside them and offering something larger,
Mm-hmm.
then in Coffee News, they're the only one. So that is, unique. Also, it is a weekly publication. So new editions are out on the stands every single week. And so all the ads rotate and move around, and there's new stories every week.
Mm-hmm.
And also, another thing, one of the ways that we give back to the community is we have a little local nonprofit what's happening section. So let's say if there's an upcoming 5K that's
Mm-hmm.
raising money for a nonprofit, then we list that in there. It's just 1 or 2 lines for that. And people send me stuff all the time, and it is limited. So, it's kind of a first come, first serve, but people love Coffee News because it's fun. There's nothing negative in it. So people really like that. And our advertisers really like it. I mean, I have advertisers, Macy, that's been with us over 13, 14 years in Palm Coast and St. Augustine. So are they getting results? Absolutely. We are affordable, but we also tell people that, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
You should make sure that you diversify and, so do maybe an ad in Coffee News, maybe definitely keep your Facebook up to date. Do another print magazine, do radio, do TV, whatever obviously fits in your budget, but don't only say, I'm only doing this. That's
Right.
all I can afford. Well, diversify, make sure that you do a variety, because I would love to tell you that everybody reads Coffee News in Flagler County, but guess what? That's a lie.
Right.
But if they read Coffee News, or they don't read Coffee News, but maybe they listen to a local radio station, or maybe they pick up another publication. There's so much great advertising opportunities in this community. So to be in a variety should be a goal for the
Mm-hmm.
majority of businesses in this area. So
Yeah, I think, and I really love the part that you were driving home about how positive you want coffee news to be. And I think that's really important with so much news available to us, like you said, like digitally, right? You go on social media, you see news. It doesn't matter if you're not following any news station, you're gonna see something.
That's right.
You go on Facebook, you're gonna see articles, you're gonna see all of these things, whether
Mm,
you want to or not. And a lot of
right,
the times, people tend to obviously focus on the more sensationalized. Um, Sometimes negative. And listen, sometimes you do need to know about this stuff that's going on, right? But you should be able to have these spaces where like, hey, I want to look for some good, reliable pick-me-ups in the morning, right? With your
right,
coffee. And I absolutely love that you do that. And then you have, of course, exclusive advertising, which makes it so much less overwhelming for readers. So like, oh, I'm not going to see the same ad 5 times. It's okay. We're going to see something new today, here, or there, which I think is super cool.
right. Thank you. Yes, it really is. So yes.
Yeah. Well, switching topics just a little bit. I know that you were talking to me a little bit about this, but you're affiliated or you do a lot with SMART and animal rescue. I'd love for you to talk about that. I think that's a cause that a lot of people have close to heart, especially when it comes to animals and rescuing and just helping out where they can.
Absolutely. So SMART is a local animal rescue that's run by Caroline Johnson. And I am fortunate enough to be one of her fosters. Um, we're on foster number 4. The
Oh.
first one was a foster fail.
Oh.
So, but our first dog, she was elderly, and we literally only had her about 9 weeks before she passed away,
Oh,
which we kind of knew that when we took her in. She
right.
was pretty much hospice state. And then we had 2 other little babies, and we got them adopted out to a couple down in Port Orange. And then now we have little Mr. Dandy, who is almost 16 years old.
Oh,
He
wow.
is almost blind, he's deaf, and he is a little full-blooded Shih Tzu. He was pulled from a backyard breeder, so his skin was in horrible condition, and so now he is he's such a sweet little baby. And with him being a senior, it's going to be hard for her to find somebody who, is interested in adopting him. So I literally
Right.
have told Caroline a while back, I'm like, look, we're your hospice foster. If you see that, look, they're probably not going to get adopted, we're your foster, So, and we do help Caroline at events. So she does festivals, she'll do pop-up events and stuff like that. We just had a happy hour, a yappy hour actually
Oh,
last week over at Loopers. It was a big attendance, so I helped sell like raffle tickets and door prize stuff for that. So my husband and I are both very big animal lovers, and so when we heard about Caroline and all the great stuff that she was doing in the community, like we're like we got to help.
mm-hmm.
When we were in North Georgia, we actually volunteered at the Humane Society up there, and we fostered in about 7 or 8 years. We fostered over 100 doggies up there.
Whoa.
So this is not we're not new to fostering,
Right. Yeah.
but Olivia, the first one that I told you about, Olivia was actually like foster failure number 7. So we only do rescues. We will never buy a dog because
Hmm.
there's so many dogs in shelters and rescues who will get put down every day, unless
Yeah.
it's a no-kill shelter,
Right.
but who put down every day. So I'm just super passionate about spay neuter and then also help homeless animals in the community. So
Oh, that's
and Caroline does
awesome.
an awesome job, and I'm so happy to be a part of her organization to help out.
Yeah, and I can really tell you have a huge love and passion for it, and I think that's really amazing. And it's so nice that you're not it's not just, oh, I want I don't know if this is like a real problem that you've seen, but like you don't want just like to find the cutest animal that you find. You want to help. You want to go out there and help the ones that, they need the help
Need
right
help?
now.
Absolutely,
And
yes,
you're willing
ma'am.
to do the hard stuff for them, and that's where I think the real love and passion comes through. It's like I'm willing to do that it's close to my heart, and it's really special.
Right. And the good thing about it, my husband is as passionate or worse than I am
Yeah,
about
I was just about
animals.
to say that's perfect. It's a perfect duo in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do try to say, when we were in North Georgia, our house was, had multiple levels, so we could put dogs in different areas. Here, it's all one level. So we
Hmm.
do have to be cautious. But if she has a rescue and she can't find one, we're like, okay, we can block off we don't have nobody coming to visit. We can block off the guest room so the doggy
Right.
can recover, you know. So I mean, like we had that conversation last night. There was one which she found a foster for it. But like we're just like we'll rearrange our schedules because of
Oh,
he works with me too full time. So
yeah.
we can rearrange our schedules. We rotate our vacations around our doggies. So and our fosters. So yeah. So yeah, we're super passionate about it. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for highlighting the
Yeah.
smart rescue. So
Of course. Well, that's so cool. That it actually like reminded me that I need to add this to like my list of like when I get married, like, okay, has to, I love cats. They have, he's gonna have to like cats.
that's
I've
right.
added this to my no-brainer list. I'm like, this makes sense. This is
Right.
what my whole family right now that I live with is allergic to it, to animals, but my husband
Right.
cannot be. I've now
That's
made this
right.
a new
That's right.
rule.
That's a deal
Like,
breaker, right?
it, yeah, no.
Don't like animals? Bye.
Exactly, exactly. Like especially like if you have I feel like cats and dogs, like those are the two big debaters. So if you
Hmm.
have very strong feelings towards either of them, it's gonna have to be a pass.
Right.
Like
And
negatively.
we like cats. There's nothing wrong with cats.
Oh yeah.
But we had one of our rescues who was a who eat cats. So Petey. So we couldn't have a cat because a
No.
Petey would kill it. So we just kind of
Yeah.
always kept that because dogs in
That's
general,
yeah, perfectly
don't get along with
fine.
cats.
Yeah.
But we love animals. We love all animals. So we just
That's so
happen to help with rescue of doggies. So
yeah. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a few minutes, sharing about coffee news, how you help businesses, and then also a lot about Smart, which I hadn't really known a lot before getting on this call, but now I'm super grateful I do. I know I have some friends who volunteer with the Humane Society here and things
mhm,
like that. So it's really lovely to hear all of these great stories and all the positive
awesome.
that you do for the community. That's always the goal that I have on the podcast, similar to Coffee News. So thank you again for the
Awesome.
time. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone listening. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time.
Right.